tonight, May 7th, 7:01 p.m., and we're in regular session. Our first item of business is to establish a quorum, and all members of council are present tonight. The next item of business is disposition of the minutes for the regular session held on April 16th, 2018. I could have a motion for approval of those minutes?
So moved. Second.
Okay, we have a motion and second for approval of the minutes. All those in favor? Signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. And it sounded unanimous at different points, but the next item is that we have communications. We do have one friendly reminder that the mayor said was also in the Sunday paper, and this is about gutters and grass, and it's from the code director, the codes office, and just a friendly reminder to folks that it's grass clipping season, and to try and contain that material in your yard so that it doesn't go into the street, because what goes into the streets eventually ends up in near our storm drains and down into the storm sewers and makes for a clogged mess for us sometimes. So that'd help us all greatly. And also then keeping it out of the gutters. Correct, thank you.
Old growth.
Okay.
If you see trees growing in your gutter, it's mosquito habitat, and we don't want mosquitoes.
So another thing to be aware of during spring cleaning sessions. Are there any other communications from other council members tonight? Yes, Councilmember Reisner.
I received one complimenting the city on putting sidewalks on East State Street. They said it was very nice to see them there. So we got a pat on the back.
That's great. Okay. Yes, Councilmember Katsas.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to remind everybody that the next Athens City School District Board meeting will be on May 17th, and that will be at 6:30 p.m. in the Athens High School auditorium.
Okay, great. Yes, Councilmember McGee.
Thank you. Since we were speaking about mosquitoes, and I should also mention that birds are closely related to mosquitoes, and I've had a few people mention to me that the mural on Stimson Avenue was absolutely lovely, and again, I think Mr. Wild is an amazing artist, so I think the city has done a good job in having him do the mural. I also wanted to mention that certain citizens, myself included, are concerned about the possible fate of our chimney swifts in the future, and there are certain citizens who are organizing to try to persuade the East Elementary and the school board to save the chimney, which is the habitat of our local chimney swifts. And I know if anybody in the audience has any people are concerned with birds in general, mosquito-eating birds in particular, that they should stay tuned for the meetings, or at least the postings that will be made concerning those chimney swifts. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thanks. Also, just a special thanks. I happened to drive up Mill Street when we were coming into town this afternoon and saw 30 or 40 couches and then 30 or 40 chairs and numerous mattresses, and wanted to thank the community. Number one, I know there were a number of organizations involved with move-out operations, and there were drop-off points around the city, but then a second thank you to the Athens Hocking Recycling, our Waste and Recycling Center, for doing a commendable job. At one point, I think they had 2 or 3 trucks and crews of people just moving down Mill Street, and about an hour and a half later, it was pretty well cleared, so thanks. Okay, communications from other elected officials. Law Director Eliason?
No.
Okay. Auditor Hecht is not here. Mayor Patterson?
I have a few items. I would like to dovetail on what you're just saying about move out and everything that was going on. And this is, I should give a big thank you to the code office, and in particular our solid waste litter control officers who were out. Apparently individuals were going through and breaking open plastic bags, thinking that maybe there was something worthwhile opening that bag, and then the wind blows and things were scattering all over. So they did a great job of having to work harder than they always work, and they always work hard. So yeah, there's a lot going on with move out. It seemed fairly smooth through my lens with move out and graduation and whatnot. A couple items I want to mention. First and foremost, what I believe to have been irreplaceable Samantha Miller was our intern in the city office. She graduated and has moved on, and we have a new intern in the city building, university intern. John Schlosser will be interning over the summer, so you will see him as you come up to my office area. We also have the second intern that council you are aware of. Mitch Holland is going to be the intern who's helping us look at revenue projections and forecasting. He'll be working very closely with the city auditor and myself. His expertise is doing financial forecasting and modeling, so and he'll be looking at data probably going as far back as 10, maybe even 15 years of history, and helping to use that to model projections forward, both on the revenue as well as expense end, paying close attention to everything that we're tracking these days. On another item that I have is that Saturday, May 19th at 11 a.m., there will be a historic monument or historic placard unveiling in front of the Armory. It's a historic marker speaking about the Armory, our 1916 Armory. There will be several dignitaries to include Representative Jay Edwards at this event. It will be, as I said, right in front of the Armory. You can't miss at 11 o'clock on the 19th. So put that on your radar. The last thing that I have is a swimming pool opening update. This is important. The opening date originally was to be Memorial Day weekend. The opening date now is June 12th. And the reason behind that is several different things. Weather wasn't working in our favor this year during construction season, especially at the tail end when what's being done is a lot of concrete deck pouring. And with all the rain events that we had, that certainly slowed that process down. So it hasn't backed up much, but it has backed up some. Swimming lesson registration is underway right now. Different aquatic registrations are going on now, but I do want council and anyone who's watching tonight to be aware that that project has slowed down by 2 weeks. But that said, we will have a grand opening, and you'll have a beautiful brand new pool with 5 tanks of water and 2 big slides and lots of fun. So anyway, all that said, keep in mind the pool opening at this point in time is June 12th. That's all I have.
Great. All right, thank you. We'll move on now to ordinances for third reading. The first one is Ordinance 4118, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to submit an application and enter into an agreement with ODOT for a Transportation Alternatives Program grant for the Uptown Cross Street Pedestrian Bicycle Improvements Project and declaring an emergency. This is introduced by Councilmember Katsas.
President Nisley, thank you. I'd like to make a motion to adopt 04118.
Second.
And if we remember back, this is looking at just submitting an application for the grant process and looking into improving all of those cross streets that run perpendicular to Court Street. So we're looking at Mill Street, Washington, and Union that hasn't been improved yet. So this is just the phase of applying for a grant. We will learn more as if we're successful, and we start to look at exactly what we want to do with the streets at that point.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion and second for approval of this ordinance. Are there any other comments or questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The motion carries and the ordinance is approved. Ordinance 4218 is an ordinance closing a portion of Court Street between Washington and Carpenter on Saturday, June 30th from 6 a.m. to 1 a.m. on Sunday, July 1st, 2018 for Boogie on the Bricks, a family music and arts festival, introduced by Councilmember Katsas.
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion to adopt 04218.
Second.
And this is on Saturday, June 30th. The closure starting at 6 a.m. Sunday through Sunday, July 1st, and this is for Boogie on the Bricks.
Okay. We have a motion and second for approval of 4218. Any other comments or questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The motion carries and the ordinance is approved. We now have ordinance 4318, once again related to Boogie on the Bricks and the noise. An ordinance suspending the enforcement of Athens City Code Section 13.04.1, unnecessary noise in the downtown area on Saturday, June 30th, and until 1 a.m. on Sunday, July 1, 2018 for Boogie on the Bricks, a family music and arts festival, introduced by Councilmember Katsas.
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion to adopt 04318.
Second.
And this is just to suspend our city noise code during the Boogie on the Bricks, at time ending Sunday, July 1st at 1 o'clock.
Okay. We have a motion and second. Any other comments or questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The motion carries and the ordinance is approved. Ordinance 4418 is an ordinance suspending the enforcement of Athens City Code Chapter 11.04, vending, peddling, and soliciting to allow vending in a designated area on Saturday, June 30th, and until 1 a.m. on Sunday, July 1, 2018, during the Boogie on the Bricks Family Music and Arts Festival, introduced by Councilmember Katsas.
President Nisley, thank you. I'd like to make a motion to adopt 04418.
Second.
And this is just suspending our Athens City vending code during the time that Boogie on the Bricks will be happening.
Okay. We have a motion and second for approval of the ordinance. Any other comments or questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The motion carries and the ordinance is approved. We'll now move on to a series of ordinances for Ohio Brew Week, same series of 3. Ordinance 4518 is an ordinance closing a portion of Court Street between Washington and Carpenter on Saturday, July 21st, 2018 from 6 a.m. to midnight for Ohio Brew Week, introduced by Councilmember Katsas.
President Nisley, thank you. I'd like to make a motion to adopt 04518.
Second.
And this is for the last call event, which is the end of the Ohio Brew Week. So that's Saturday, July 21st, closing a portion of Court Street between Washington and Carpenter, and that ending at midnight on July 22nd.
Okay. So we have a motion and second for approval of 4518. Any other comments or questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The motion carries and the ordinance is approved. Ordinance 4618 is an ordinance suspending the enforcement of Athens City Code 13.04.10, unnecessary noise in the downtown area on July 21st, 2018 for Ohio Brew Week, introduced by Councilmember Katsas.
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion to adopt 04618. And this is just to suspend our noise ordinance during the time that the last call will be happening.
Okay, we have a motion and second for 4618. I'm getting ahead of myself in my notes. Any other comments or questions? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ordinance carries. The motion carries and the ordinance is approved. Ordinance 4718 is an ordinance suspending the enforcement of Athens City Code Chapter 11.04, vending, peddling, and soliciting to allow vending in a designated area on Saturday, July 21st, 2018 during the Ohio Brew Week event, introduced by Councilmember Katsas.
President Nisley, thank you. I'd like to make a motion to adopt 04718. And this is just suspending our vending code and allowing a different street to happen during the end of the Ohio Brew Week.
Okay. So we have a motion and second for approval of Ordinance 4718. Any other comments or questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The motion carries and the ordinance is approved. Now I have Ordinance 4818, an ordinance amending Title 11, Business Regulations, Chapter 11.04, Vending, Peddling, and Soliciting. And this is introduced by Councilmember McGee.
Thank you, President Nisley. I would, at this point in time, I would move to table this particular ordinance, at least the amendment to the ordinance. After reviewing what was proposed, I'm convinced that it doesn't really satisfy what the goals were that I had hoped to enact. And it does open up a lot of issues that need addressed. And I've spoken to vendors, I've spoken to business owners, I've spoken to citizens, and there seems to be quite a bit of conflict over what would be best for all parties involved. Although I think this proposal does go some way towards fixing a situation that needs some sort of tweaking. At this point in time, I would move to table it because I do not think that it satisfies what it needs to be done at this time. I do intend to propose at the next committee meeting to amend this particular ordinance with a new ordinance which would deal solely with the time involved for the vending, and to change that from 4 p.m. until noon, but that would be for the next discussion.
So we have a motion to lay this on the table and a second. Okay. And do we have any other comments or questions? Councilmember Fall.
I think that this process has been a little convoluted, and there have been issues that have been uncovered that this ordinance doesn't address at all. We did have the creation of a group, a business group now, which I think is a great outcome. What I would do, instead of just tabling it, I would table it for a longer period and look at the whole vending ordinance and the code written about it, because I think this process has pointed out a whole range of issues that we need to address, because our vending ordinance is rather old and we really haven't addressed it, and there's issues with new regulations coming down. And so I think that going forward, we need to keep that in the back of our mind. Also, I think we need to also get the information from the parking study that's been done by Paul Logue to inform this process. And also, I think that some of the stuff that's coming out from the comprehensive plan will help to educate people and to inform the whole process. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Councilmember Crowell.
I just want to echo Councilmember Fall's comments. I think maybe we do need some more time. I appreciate Member McGee's work on this and trying to solve part of the parking issue on Union. I do think that the creation of the Athens Mobile Vending Association is progress, and that we can work with this organization to find the best way forward, because I think there's a lot of information we need to consider and things to really get this right.
Okay. Any other comments down there? And do we have any comments here? Okay. And a comment from the public, yes.
Yes, thank you. My name is Damon Crane. I live at 96 Hudson Avenue in the 4th Ward of the City of Athens. I own and operate a potato food truck and am president of the Athens Mobile Vending Association, which at this point, now we've grown to represent 12 different mobile vending businesses, those being Burrito Buggy, Alibaba's Kitchen, Holy Guacamole, Dr. May's Thai Kitchen, A-Town Pies and Fries, Tornado Potato, Hot Diggity Dog, Chelsea's Real Food, Nick's Tommalized, Athene Weenie, Colonel Crunch, Rockin' Gourmet Popcorn, and Hot Potato Food Truck. I think the AMVA would certainly be in favor of tabling this until we have time to come up with what vendors would like to see from a new city ordinance, and then meet with city officials, discuss that. I think we would have something much more coherent to bring to the table as a group than we've been able to bring as individual vendors prior to now. So we would definitely be in favor of this current ordinance being tabled, but we really would like the process to be slowed down until we have time to bring our ideas to city officials. I know the Councilmember McGee has, first of all, we're grateful to Councilmember McGee for initiating what is a very important discussion about this. We're of the opinion that it doesn't just affect our livelihoods and residents' dining options, but also our nationally renowned local food and beverage scene and the broader character of our community. We're of the opinion that it is a very complicated issue. A lot of things are tied up with one another, from new state regulations to the varying logistical concerns of people with food trucks versus trailers, to, of course, the need for more public parking if possible uptown. There's a lot of things wrapped up in this. And so it's our opinion that really the parking situation can't be addressed separately from that. Councilmember McGee's latest proposal, articulated in his letter to the Athens News, which I think the date on the website is April 22nd, but I believe it appeared in the 23rd's print edition. The idea there was to just attempt to address parking by cutting back the reserved hours from their current level of 7:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. 7 days a week to 7:30 a.m. to noon, Monday through Saturday, and eliminating them completely on Sunday. That would be a 55% reduction of the current hours allotted to reserve vending time uptown. It would follow a 57% reduction that occurred in 2013. If passed, the combined result of those would mean that in the last 6 years, the city of Athens will have reduced reserved vending time uptown by 81%. We feel that's a fairly significant reduction, but what it would mean is radically different if it occurred with spots that are the same size as they are right now versus spots that would be a different size. What it would mean for us would be radically different if it occurred with the Union Street spots being the only place in town or being one of a couple places in town. Even though it seems like a bad thing for us overall, what it really means is so dependent on other aspects of this issue and how they're resolved. So for those reasons, we would really encourage council to table all discussion of this issue until we've had time to formulate our suggestions.
Thank you. All right. So we have a motion and second to lay this ordinance on the table. And we've heard comments and from council members and the public, Mr. Crane. So I'm ready to go ahead and ask people to tell me which way they're going to vote. So all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay? Okay, the motion carries. Thank you. Ordinance 4918 is an ordinance granting a revocable license to Nicholas Kuhn, owner, 406 Elmwood Place, to allow a fence on the city right-of-way. This is introduced by Councilmember Fall.
Thank you. I move that we adopt ordinance. What was the number?
4918.
4918.
Second.
Exciting. In the realm of really super exciting things, right away, licenses are right up there. This is a 10-year revocable license for a fence, a decorative fence that will enhance the yard and make it pleasant for everybody in the neighborhood. Thank you.
Have a motion.
Oh, sorry.
Motion and second for approval of ordinance 4918. Any other comments or questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The motion carries and the ordinance is approved. Ordinance 5018 is an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a mutual aid agreement with the Ohio Wastewater Agency Response Network. This is introduced by Councilmember Butler.
Thank you, President Isley. At this moment, I would like to make a motion to adopt Ordinance 50-18.
Second.
Thank you. We heard about this in committee meeting. This is the Ohio WARN system, mutual aid, which allows us to assist other entities that are a part of this MOU. Essentially, we've been engaging in this activity, but this allows us to make it official. It also allows us to then to be the recipient of said mutual aid as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion and second to adopt ordinance 5018. Any other comments or questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The motion carries and the ordinance is approved. Ordinance 5118 is an ordinance declaring certain items no longer needed for a municipal purpose, and this is introduced by Councilmember Butler. And I understand we have a series of motions tonight for this.
Thank you, President Isley. Yes, we do. This is an ordinance regarding declaration of us acknowledging vehicles are no longer needed, as well as the AquaClimb climbing wall from the old pool, 1985 International dump truck, and a 2003 GMC Sierra 4x4 with excessive mileage on each. At this moment, I would like to make a motion to amend this ordinance to include an emergency clause which will help expedite the process of getting the titles processed in a timely manner on the vehicles.
Okay.
Second.
So we have a motion and second to amend, and we're adding an emergency clause as the amendment to this ordinance then.
Correct.
Okay. So we can allow for the timely disposition of the vehicles. All right. So we have a motion and second for amending this. Any other comments or questions on this amendment? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Okay, the ordinance has been amended and read for the first time.
Thank you, President Isley. At this moment, I would like to continue with a motion to suspend the ordinance 51-18 with the new language included.
Second.
Thank you. And the reason for suspension would be to help proceed with the timeliness of the processing of the titles.
Okay. So we have a motion and second for suspending the rules on ordinance 51-18. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Okay, the rules have been suspended. Councilmember Butler.
Thank you, President Isley. And then lastly, again, in the timeliness of the moment, to proceed with a motion to adopt ordinance 51-18.
Second.
Thank you.
Okay. So we have a motion and second for adopting this ordinance. Any other comments or questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The motions carry, that motion carries, and the ordinance is now approved
Thank you.
as
Thank
amended.
you, everyone.
Ordinance 52-18 is an ordinance amending ordinance 152-17, fringe benefits package for non-union personnel. This is section 19C, paid holidays, and it's introduced by Councilmember Reisner.
Thank you, Madam President. We've discussed this amendment to the non-union personnel package, and the only change here is that we're bringing part-time and full-time employees to parity in terms of using their birthday holiday. The section 19, paragraph C is modified with the last sentence to read as follows: employees will be required to pass probation in order to receive their birthday holiday. I make a motion at this time to adopt 52-18.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and second for approving ordinance 52-18. Any other comments or questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The motion carries and the ordinance is approved. We now have some ordinances for second reading. The first one being ordinance 53-18, which is an ordinance authorizing the 2018 street paving and repairs project, number 319. And this is introduced by Councilmember Katsas. And I do believe we have some additional information that the mayor would like to share with us tonight, even though we won't be voting on it tonight, but yes.
Correct. I just do want to give council an update. We just got word this afternoon that Ohio University wants to work with the city on the annual repaving. They have several streets that are owned by them, but they also need to be milled and repaved. And one of the ways in which we can lower the cost of asphalt and the milling and repaving is to have more partners in this. And so Ohio University has identified 3 streets that they are interested in partnering with the city on. They would be West Green Drive, which is roughly 66,000 square foot. Race Street, which is 13,500 square feet of surface, and then South Green Drive at Peng Recreation Center, and that is about 13,000 square foot of space. So we'll be coming to council with an amendment. I'll hopefully have that by Wednesday, to where it'll come up for third reading.
Okay. Amend,
And
suspend.
get this to go.
And we have a comment from Councilmember Reisner.
with partnering with Ohio University and reducing our costs for the asphalt, could that potentially mean we may be able to pave additional streets within the city itself?
It could. A lot depends on what happens when this goes out to bid, because some of these are going to be alternatives, but that's a possibility. It's something that I've spoken at length with Interim Service Safety Director Andy Stone about, and that we could raise some of the streets that are on the alternate list now that you've all seen during the street tour.
Okay.
That'd be a great thing.
It would be a great thing.
So as I understand, you'll have some revised numbers for us by Wednesday.
Yes, we will.
Great. Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Thanks. The next one is Ordinance 5418, an ordinance authorizing a pilot residential curbside compost project, introduced by Councilmember Butler. Ordinance 5518 is an ordinance granting a revocable license to Thomas Parfit, owner at 134 Columbus Road, to allow parking on the city right-of-way, and this is introduced by Councilmember Fall. Ordinance 5618 is an ordinance amending the 2018 appropriation ordinance and is introduced by Councilmember Reisner. Now we have ordinances for first reading. Ordinance 5918 is an ordinance accepting the donations by TS Tech Americas, Inc. of 13.285 acres and Scott and Gwinnett Brooks of 0.284 acres, totaling 13.569 acres, more or less, off Kenny Drive to the city of Athens. This is introduced by Councilmember Fall.
Thank you. This has been in the works for a while, and it's a very generous donation by the TS Tech, and it's gone all the way up into the hierarchy and the board of directors of the company. It's right behind where UPS is, or when people think about that area, and it will be used for a public use. Mostly at this point, the idea is an EMS station. Is that the ambulance?
Yes. Mayor Patterson.
Yes. No, but the larger portion, Member Fall, will
Right.
be for fire training, which really helps us with our ISO rating in the city of Athens, doing specialized training. But there will, once this transaction takes place, then there will be increased meetings with the county to talk about an EMS station down there.
And when we went out and visited the area, we did talk about those two uses and the possible entrance that could be made into this area.
Off of Elliotsville Road.
Right. There are some, and this area isn't super developable. It would be good for a fire practice area because a high pressure gas line goes through part of it. So, thank you.
Okay.
It could be exciting.
We now have Ordinance 6018, and this is quite a lengthy title. It's an ordinance creating a downtown redevelopment districts, otherwise known as DRDs, in the city of Athens, declaring the improvement of certain parcels of real property to be a public purpose and exempt from taxation, requiring the owner of the parcels to make service payments in lieu of taxes, specifying the plan for using service payments to promote economic development and job creation, authorizing the execution of an economic development plan, establishing funds for the 234 Washington DRD, the Sheltering Arms DRD, and the Athens Depot DRD for the deposit of such service payments. And this is introduced by all council members. Would you like to? Thank you.
I do think that this is probably the longest title that we've had, and it's pretty self-explanatory. DRDs are a new tool that the state has developed. There haven't, because it is a new tool from 2016, there aren't a lot of models out there. So we are once again doing, going forward where no city has gone before. Not really, there are other ones, but they're all new. And it's quite exciting because the DRD provides tools and possibly ways to leverage the monies and the people to do more than what is just the DRD. And the other thing is that it's all based on historic building. And so like the Sheltering Arms and the West Side one are centered on certain historic buildings, and the Depot one is centered on the Depot as a historic building. So there will be other information coming forward about other things that are going to be occurring with these DRDs.
Okay. And we did have a public presentation, a public hearing last week by Mr. Nate Green from the Montrose Group, looking at these 10-acre parcels and with the maps available, and I believe we had the maps available that night and may still have them on the website if people are interested. But with the goal that, yes, there'll be some capital investment and hopefully some new jobs.
Right.
So,
well, and I think
great.
that this process also helps establish really good communication between the different players about specific things, and it gives the city leverage over other things that can happen in that area.
Great, thank you. Ordinance 6118 with a slightly shorter title. An ordinance amending Athens City Code Title III, Administrative Provisions, Chapter 3.07, Administrative Departments, Boards, and Commissions, Section 3.07.74A, the establishment of the Environmental and Sustainability Commission. And this is introduced by Councilmember Fall.
Thank you. I want to give some background on the establishment of this commission. This came out as a recommendation from the first comprehensive plan that we've been updating recently. And what that plan, the comprehensive plan, the city made an ad hoc committee of people, of citizens, to look at how to implement that plan. And we went through and we did benchmarks and looking at the different tools and different ways that we can implement the comprehensive plan. And this was one of the ways that we decided to enact the desires and the visions from that comprehensive plan is this commission, the Sustainability Commission, as it's called. And so that's been in place for a few years. It started out with 7 people. It was increased to 9, and now we would like 11. The commission has been extremely prolific and very productive. And they have put out their sustainability plan for the city, been working with Paul Lowe, doing the comprehensive plan, visioning and updating process, and are there to help answer questions and provide recommendations to the city. So I'm very much in favor of increasing the people, because then they can just do more. It also shows the comprehensive plan is not just something that sits on a book. It is actually enacted.
Okay, thank you. And we have a comment from the mayor.
I do. I just want to mention that speaking to this particular committee, Ohio University Office of Sustainability recently recognized this particular board or commission. And so it is important. I think the Environmental and Sustainability Commission is vitally important to us as a city as we move forward and look at best practices.
Absolutely. Okay, any other comments? All right, thank you so much. Ordinance 6218 is an ordinance authorizing the mayor to make application and enter into a project agreement with the Ohio Department of Natural Resources and declaring an emergency. This is introduced by Councilmember Butler.
Thank you, President Isley. We discussed this in committee, and if you recall, this would authorize the mayor's office to file an application with ODNR and attempt to acquire the funds and grants through the State of Ohio Nature Works program. We've applied in the past. This is the 25th round. If we're fortunate enough to be the recipients, there's been an identified location where work could take place, and that would be at Camp Rotan. And there's a plethora of things that can be updated and fixed there. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Ordinance 6318 is an ordinance amending the 2018 appropriation ordinance and is introduced by Councilmember Reisner.
Thank you, Madam President. Excuse me, I'm seasonal bronchitis has struck again. This is an ordinance, as you said, amending the 2018 appropriation ordinance. It reads as follows: Section 1, the 2018 appropriation ordinance 15017 is hereby amended by appropriating from the unappropriated balance the following sums: $20,000 to Water Plant Fund, 740.637 TC 500 for 2018 clear well repairs, $75,000 to Sewer Plant Fund, 750.637 TC 300 for sludge removal, inspection of portable generator, backflow prevention, and fire suppression equipment. $20,000 to Stormwater Maintenance Fund, 755.635 TC 300 for cleanup from packing peanuts to provide for 2018 GIS services and to cover a portion of the next ASWCD contract, and $5,000 to Internal Service Mechanics Fund 865.645 TC 500 to replace a failing computer, and the remainder for large tools for the shop, and increasing the total appropriations by said amount. Thank you.
Thank you. We now have, as an agenda item, announcements and other business. And most important of which is an announcement about tomorrow being Election Day and the opportunity to vote. And so I'd urge everyone to get to the polls, cast your ballot, and they're open from, I believe, 6:30 in the morning till 7:30 at night. So lots of opportunities there for folks, and some important issues on the ballot this year. And now we have several reappointment and then an appointment on several commissions. Councilmember Grace, you have a reappointment?
Yes, I do. Ms. Kay Tousley has agreed to serve 3 more years on the Board of Zoning Appeals. So I would like to make a motion that we approve her reappointment to that board.
Okay, we have a motion and second for reappointing Kay Tousley to the Board of Zoning Appeals. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, nay. Okay, unanimously approved, and also a thank you from all of us too, because that's a difficult board to serve on. A lot of different issues with it. The next one is an appointment to the Community Relations Commission, and Councilmember Kotsis has that.
President Nisley, thank you. Yes, this is actually a vacancy, and so this is a new appointment that is being requested by administration. The candidate is Lacey Rogers, and she is the Assistant Director of United Campus Ministry. And I would say that alone overqualifies her for the position. But I also was just reading through her vita here, and she's a I'm going to say 12-year native of Athens. Undergraduate student studying here at OU in commercial photography and women's and gender studies, but then came back and finished a master's degree in clinical mental health, rehabilitation counseling, and public administration at Ohio University. So yes, Lacey Rogers, we're seeking an appointment to the Community Relations Commission.
Okay, thank you. So we have a motion. And a second, and I believe she's actually been just volunteering with the Community Relations Commission already and expressed interest in the commission. So.
Thank you.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Unanimous approval. Thanks. Do we have other announcements? I know that we have committee meetings next week, and it looks like we may have all of them: City and Safety Services, Transportation, Finance and Personnel, and then planning if we're ready to move forward with the Affordable Housing Commission. Do you have any announcements?
Just 2 announcements. I alluded to this earlier, but the interim service safety director for the city of Athens is Andy Stone. He was sworn in last Friday, I believe it was. And then my weekly press conference this week it's typically at noon, or it's typically at 2 o'clock on Wednesdays. It'll be at 3 o'clock, and it will be a remote at the water treatment plant to show the public some of the improvements that have taken place down there. So 3 o'clock Wednesday afternoon, live streaming.
Good. Thanks. Yes.
I
Councilmember
just
Grace.
wanted to comment as far as the pool announcement with the opening date. I was at the park with my kids and they saw the new water slides, and my 7-year-old has declared that the pool is going to be epic. So I think there's going to be a lot of excitement from the young members of the Athens community when the pool opens.
Okay, great. Thanks. All right. We have an opportunity for citizens to speak on legislative items and city services that were not covered on the agenda already this evening. Is there anybody who wishes to speak on a different topic? Okay. If not, what we'll be doing shortly is making a motion to go into executive session. And just a little bit of word of explanation. I know that we have some members of the public and some members of the press here tonight who may want an opportunity to speak with council members or administration. So what we'll do is, once the motion passes, we'll allow up to 10 minutes, if you would like to do that, to speak with persons here. And then we'll be going into executive session. When we come back out of that executive session, we do open the doors again so that if there is something that you need to follow up with a council member, we will be here again before we adjourn to open the doors. So with that explanation, I'd also like a motion now to go into executive session. For the purpose of, yes. Pending litigation.
Go into executive session for the purpose of pending litigation. All members of council, the law director, the president, the mayor. Is Kathy coming? No? Okay.
Okay. Okay.
That's all.
And so we'll take a voice vote. Councilmember Butler? Oh, a second, I'm sorry. A second?
Second.
Thank you.
Aye.
Yes.
Aye.
Member Reisner?
Aye.
Member
Aye.
Crowell?
Aye.
Member Katsas?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you so much. So we have the motion and second the vote, and we will be going into executive session at 7:48 right now. So at 7:58, we will close the doors. So until then, come up and feel free to talk with us. Thank you so much.